In 2006, Pixar released the Gamut, the greatest movie of all time, Cars. It's a movie about a bright red hotshot race car learning to appreciate the people around him, and that life isn't always about getting there first. This movie, on top of being really good, put up some big numbers in the box office. And successful movie plus big corporation plus early 2000s equals a tying game. And this movie got a lot, actually, but the one people remember is this one, Cars the video game. Not only is this game peak nostalgia, but it's also just really damn good. This game was released in June 6th, 2006, which was 3 days before the movie was shown in theaters. Wait, so that means Lightning McQueen is a video game character, which means technically he could be in Smash Bros. And even better, that would make the movie an adaptation, similar to Minecraft or Mario. Right, so as I was saying, this game was made by Rainbow Studios, which is a THQ-owned company. It was released on PS2, GameCube, PC, Steam, Xbox, and then later in November, the game was ported to the Wii and Xbox 360 by Incinerator Studios, which is another THQ-owned studio. The ports have a tiny bit more content than the other versions, and the Xbox 360 version specifically has amped up graphics. Yeah, of course, like most movie games, they put this game on as many consoles they can get their grubby little hands on. Except PS3. One thing that's noteworthy about this game is that the developers were fully aware of the stereotype that movie games get. You know, that these type of games are only made to make money on something's popularity and there's very little effort put into it, which is true. These type of games definitely exist. Some examples are Wreck-It Ralph for the Wii.
I can fix it! I'm gonna wreck it! I hate to see my beloved
Madagascar 3 for the DS. There's even some Cars games like this out there. And according to an interview with a lead game developer, Jordan Ekowitz, they wanted to make sure that this game didn't fall into that stereotype, even though they probably had a limited amount of time and budget to make this game. So that's why this game is so good. I grew up playing the Wii version of this game, and I can honestly say that statement is true. This video is going to be all about looking at the story and gameplay of this forgotten gem, and proving to you that they did in fact put their money where their mouth is. So buckle up kids, this is going to be fun. The game starts with Lightning's iconic intro. How do people hate this game? Anyway, let's get started. We open to Lightning McQueen at the Cozy Cone Motel. He had a dream about something he calls the Radiator Springs Grand Prix, which is actually the name of the first race. He's telling this to Sally, who tells him that with Radiator Springs' newfound popularity as a tourist stop, he has quite the busy day ahead. There are some new guys in town looking to race him, and Doc wants to train with him real quick before he starts the new Piston Cup season. Oh, and speaking of the new Piston Cup season, we go to Mac, who tells Lightning that he needs to train real quick before they start the new Piston Cup season, much to Lightning's dismay. Alright, we go to Flo's gas station where we meet Fletcher and Gerald, two
very posh gentleman British cars. And as you might expect from these type of people, they use big words and all sorts of fancy syllables.
How fortuitous!
I can probably lose the accent.
They, along with these two, El Guapo and Papo, challenge him to a race around Radiator Springs. One cool thing about this game is that they introduced new, fully fleshed out characters with whole personalities for this game. Also, fun fact about Fletcher, he's actually a cut character for the movie. Next, we're back at the Cozy Cone Motel with Sally, who's asking Lightning to go on a date to Wheelwell like they did in the movie. Then, all of a sudden, these two groupie cars, Mia and Tia, spawn in. Remember these guys? No? How about now? They also ask Lightning to go on a date to Wheelwell. So Sally cuts them a deal. They race 3 laps around the town, whoever wins gets to go out with Lightning. I love that Sally is voluntarily fighting for Lightning's love. Also, Flo is in this race, so I guess she wants Lightning's D as well. It's also the only race where you play as Sally, so it's a very nice change of pace. Alright, we go to Willie's Butte out in the desert, where Doc has been waiting to practice with Lightning. Of course, they're practicing the turn right to go left thing from the movie, or as this game likes to call it, power sliding. Afterwards, we spot the Chiseler himself, Chick Hicks, spying on our little training session.
Yeah, look at that guy looking all cute. Obviously, he's not scheming nothing.
Anyway, it's time for our very first Piston Cup race at Pall Mall Speedway, where we get the best cutscene in all of Cars. We start off with some Daryl Car Trip commentary. Ooh, nice, he's in here, where he's basically just roasting Chick, calling him a loser.
Last season's Piston Cup saw perennial loser Chick finally take first place. But it could have been last place as far as the fans were concerned.
Then we get the best interaction between Lightning and Chick ever. You just watch.
Lightning,
Ah, hello, chick.
check it out.
Fai attenzione!
So, big deal.
Well, you know, I just figured you might want to get acquainted with the view. You know what I mean? You know, because you're going to be spending a lot of time behind me. In the race. We're going to be in the race, and I'll be ahead of you, and you'll be behind me. In the race! Is it me? What are we not getting here?
You are so driven, chick. I love that about you.
Yeah, this game has surprisingly good humor. There's a lot of like actually funny stuff in here. Alright, let's go on to the next chapter. Alright, we're back in Radiator Springs, or after getting high with Fillmore.
A new batch of special brew, my friend.
We go to Sarge's boot camp, which is also out in the desert, to practice the turn right to go left thing with Sarge. If you remember from chapter 1, Doc actually told Lightning that he needed work. Well, here he is, working on it. One cool thing I like about the story is that they mention something once as like a joke or in passing, but then they bring it back later as some huge plot point. It's kind of like what the Incredibles movie does. It talks about something once and you'll probably forget about it, and then bring it back later. A big example being the no capes thing. Anyway, back to the story. Lightning trains with Sarge before he goes off to his next Piston Cup race. Honestly, the best part about this is how Sarge and Lightning talk to each other. Like, Sarge still treats Lightning as a spoiled rich kid, even though he obviously grew past that since the movie.
You're in my army now, son.
And Lightning makes these little cocky remarks that Sarge is giving him shrugs. You just watch it.
Now, your first task is to make it around this course. Double time. And clear all obstacles. Do not falter. Failure is not an option.
No faltering, check.
Not bad. But now the course is different. It will require different skills. You will need to be agile, fit, athletic, and adaptable.
You've been reading my press, haven't you, Sarge? Although you left out sleek, charming, and dashing.
Alright, now that Lightning is done training, he goes to the next. Wait. Hold your horses, pal. How is Lightning tired here? Okay, let me get this straight. Lightning runs 500 laps around a racetrack and doesn't get tired here. But he runs 9 laps around a tiny-ass obstacle course and he gets tired? Huh? Kamikaze is in the hot sun. He races in the hot sun all the time. And Lightning probably didn't even go very fast since he's in an obstacle course where you have to be careful. Yeah, I smell some bullshit, Cars the video game. Okay, now that Lightning is done training, he goes to his next Piston Cup race at Motor Speedway of the South, which is actually a place from the movie that you could very easily miss. Unfortunately, Palm Mall Speedway is the only place with a funny cutscene, so no funny cutscene for you, I guess. Okay, I gotta be honest with y'all. Chapter 3 is pretty weak in terms of storyline. I'm not saying that it's bad, there's definitely some fun moments in Chapter 3, but the thing is, it's mostly filler. It doesn't really add much to the story or anything. But still, it's worth talking about, so let's get on with it. We meet Mater at his junkyard, where Lightning asks Mater to fulfill his promise on teaching him how to drive backwards. This is actually pretty cool. McQueen most likely at least somewhat knows how to do it already since he did it in the movie. Seems like he's doing it to make Mater happy, which is just adorable. Alright, we meet Sheriff watching out for speeders, where McQueen tries to talk him into another chase, like they did in the movie. He somehow mishears speeders as mosquitoes.
No, not mosquitoes, son. Speeders.
What's funny about this cutscene is that Lightning indirectly tries to tempt him into a rematch, which is just weirdly out of character for him, but alright. What's also funny is as Lightning is indirectly trying to tempt him into a rematch, you can see the finish line in the background. I'm pretty sure that was unintentional, but it's still funny. Happy accident, I guess. McQueen then proceeds to make a joke about cops liking donuts while doing donuts. When you beat Chapter 3, you'll unlock Ornament Valley, which is where the rest of Chapter 2 is going to take place. We meet Mater at Rust Bucket Stadium, which I guess is the thing, where he's practicing for a demolition derby. Here, we actually get a little sneak peek into Mater's family, more specifically his weird junker cousins. There are 6 of these guys: Buford, Cletus, Judd, Lewis, Tommy Joe, and Zeke. They all have that cheesy country accent, and Zeke and Judd have Mater's buck teeth, which is just so funny. Apparently it's a family tradition they all have where they gather and have a demolition derby, which is just so damn adorable. Even Lightning knows that. Alright, now we go just across Rust Bucket Stadium to this weird gas station where we meet these rough street gang cars from Queens, New York.
Yo, look at Timmy Tough Knuckles, Billy Badass, Dangerous Dan, and Rough Randy.
Anyway, we got Vince, Sonny, Lenny, and Barry. Vince is the self-proclaimed group leader. Sonny and Lenny don't talk at all for some reason, and Barry, oh yeah, Barry is sexy. Barry is basically this goofy, awkward nerd who only joins his group to try and be cool. He's so fun. He's honestly the best part of this game, not even gonna lie.
Yeah, throw down to the ground, on the road.
Anyway, these guys are telling Lightning that he sucks and they could easily beat him in a race with their eyes closed.
Nah, we gotta teach Violent Vince here a lesson, man.
Dude, these guys are so freaking funny. Thank God we see more of them later.
Hey, you're that Lightning McQueen guy.
Yeah, we're from Queens.
The next Piston Cup race is in Sun Valley. Alright, bet. Alright, we made it to Chapter 4. Yes, sir.
Chapter 4 is absolute peak Cars the video game. The story starts to ramp up here, the minigames get good, and we unlock Tailfin Pass, the best part of Cars. But it's also the longest chapter, so strap in. We're back at the Cozy Cone Motel where Sally asks us to go on a drive with her like she promised she would in Chapter 1. See what I mean by bringing back little stuff from before? They drive up Tailfin Pass, which is a mountain pass that leads up to Wheelwell. And let me just say, it is recreated very well from the movie. It has everything, the lake, the tunnels, even that turn with the waterfall. When we reach the top, which is where Wheelwell is, we get, oh bro, it is so freaking good, man.
Remember the first time we came up here?
Yeah, you mean the first time you tricked me into a race.
I did do that, didn't I?
I'll never forget it.
After all that, McQueen runs into actual gang cars with guns and shit. No, I'm just playing. You might actually remember these guys from the movie. They're the delinquent road hazards. Remember those cars that were fucking with Mac on the street? Yeah, those guys. These guys are out here blocking the street just because they can. You wanna know what Lightning does? He turns into a fucking demon and roasts the shit out of them.
You said get lost, pal.
Oh, what are you gonna slice and dice me with your spoiler?
Hey, wait a...
McQueen challenges these guys to a race. If he wins, then they leave town forever. But if they win, then they can keep blocking the road. Of course, Lightning creams these guys. I mean, come on, he's a fucking NASCAR, and these guys are stupid teenagers. Alright, we're back in Ornament Valley where... Chick is looking for a race. Turns out the Queen's gang from before are actually working for Chick Hicks, and Chick sent them to learn Lightning's moves. Will Lightning McQueen triumph over Chick Hicks? No, of course Lightning wins. He's the main character, and Chick turns into a salty little bitch.
So what?
Nobody's there to see it or watch us.
Nobody's there. It's like a,
A tree falls in forest, nobody, they hurt.
does anybody see it? Or,
Oh, that's right, I forgot. You like losing in front of a crowd.
Then Chick hits him with a...
if you ever make it there.
Which brings me to the next bit. These next two missions, High Speed Heist and Lightning Strikes Back, are absolute peak Cars video game. Now, you thought Chapter 4 was peak so far? This is the peak of all peaks, man. Remember those delinquent road hazards from before? Well, they want revenge. And for the revenge, they plan to straight up mug Mac on the freeway. Bro, you cannot make this shit up. They used the same plan that they did in the movie. DJ plays soothing music to put Mac to sleep, Boost opens the trailer, and Winko steals the goods. We don't get to play a snot rod though. How this mission works is you have to catch up to Mac by speeding down the freeway and weaving through traffic while this sick-ass punk music plays. Dude, this minigame is sick. You get to go 180 miles an hour down the freeway while these passerbys yell at you to slow down. It's so fun, dude.
Watch where you going! Hey, get out of my way. Where'd you learn to drive?
After these guys successfully rob Mac, we go to Lightning, who learns that Mac got mugged on the freeway. And he's mad, man. In fact, he gets so mad that we get the toughest cutscene in all of Cars.
That's it. You can mess with me, but you don't mess with my friends.
Did you see that?
Lightning, with his newfound wrath, goes after the delinquent road hazards. And we get another very cool minigame. It's the same thing from before, but this time we go against traffic, and we get this kick-ass rock music instead. The goal is to hit each delinquent road hazard 3 times as they come at you one by one. Yes, including Snot Rod this time. Both of these missions are really, really cool. That's why I dedicated a whole side part to them.
If you grew up loving the delinquent road hazards from that tough scene in the movie, then you'll love them even more here. I know I felt super cool playing this as a kid. Alright, let's go back to the story. After Lightning catches the delinquent road hazards, he throws them in that same impound, nice touch, where we learn that Chick actually hired these guys to rob Mac and that they were just following orders. Here we get a glimpse of Chick's big master plan. Chick knows that he can't really play dirty on the track anymore. He lost all his fans, maybe even some sponsors from doing so. Now he has to play dirty off the track, waiting in the shadows for the perfect chance to strike, like a cat. It makes you wonder, could Chick have hired these guys to sabotage Mac in the movie too? Did he plan for Lightning to get lost in the middle of nowhere? Is Chick's mustache fake too, just like these guys? Who knows? But what we do know is Chick is a lot more smart and cunning than he looks. You know, what's even crazier is that Chick, throughout this game, always makes stupid jokes and throws these little tantrums, but that could have easily been a facade to keep Lightning's guard down. I guess the lesson here is, don't get on Chick's bad side or else he'll send Eggers to rob you. Alright, we're at the next Piston Cup race in Smasherville and Lightning is still mad about everything. He goes to confront Chick, but he denies everything because he's a squiggly ass cunt. And after Lightning destroys him as usual, Chick gets all pissy. Chick starts to crash out and Lightning does this.
Actually, Daryl, I've got something better in mind. The Radiator Springs Grand Prix. 3 races, 1 in each part of Ornament Valley, and ending with one last Piston Cup race. Can we do that?
Yep, it's the Radiator Springs Grand Prix from Chapter 1. Oh yeah, I love this game. Time for the grand finale. Okay, Chapter 5, the last one. Now, unlike Chapter 4, Chapter 5 is really short. Not counting the ending, there's only like 3 cutscenes. After all, it is just the Radiator Springs Grand Prix that Lightning came up with at Smasherville. But, like Chapter 3, it is good. It's not bad at all. There's some fun moments in it. Alright, so how does the Radiator Springs Grand Prix work? There's 3 really long races, 1 in each part of the map. Radiator Springs, Tailfin Pass, and Ornament Valley. Then it'll end with 1 more Piston Cup race, which will end the game. Alright, enough stalling. The first race is in Radiator Springs, and Mater and Daryl are commentating just like it was in Lightning's dream. Not much really happens here, it's just Mater being Mater. Mater does call Chick ugly though, so that's funny.
Spit cup.
Next up, the Tailfin Pass Grand Prix. And according to Mater, people have actually fallen off the mountain and died before, so that's fun. Chick talks about not having any phone reception. Skip! Last is the Ornament Valley Grand Prix. And don't worry, this is the best one. Daryl is interviewing Vince, and it turns out that Vince is just as awkward and nerdy as Barry is. As he's being interviewed, he stutters and stammers and goes, "I'm not," to the camera. Nah, that is some crazy stage fright, Vince. I think Lightning kind of saw through them too. Wait, hold on a minute. Where the hell did Lenny go? Wait, what happened to him? Did he get kicked out? Did he die? Did he leave on his own? What happened to him? Nah, Pixar, you gotta drop the lore on this friend group, come on. Okay, one last Piston Cup race at Los Angeles International Speedway, which is actually where the tiebreaker took place in the movie, so that's nice. Again, not much really happens here. You just race. Well, it is one of the only races you have to win, so I guess there's that. There's not even an ending cutscene with Chick. It's just, oh, we got the Piston Cup, time to go to the ending. The ending is not great. Basically, everyone's like, "What's next, Lightning?" And he's all like, "I don't know, wherever the wind takes us," as they drive into the sunset. I suppose one good thing about the ending is the lack of music. If you've noticed, none of these cutscenes actually have any music, and it sort of helps out this cutscene. It's supposed to be like a gentler, calm scene, it's just the characters talking and the wind in the background, so yeah, the lack of music helps. But that's all I really have to say about it. It's still really corny. But it's not terrible. No matter how bad this game gets, we can always say, at least it's better than Cars 2. And you know, it did still put a smile on my face, and I guess that's all that matters, right? And there you have it. That's Cars the video game story. It really wasn't that bad, especially considering that it came from a tie-in game. Most movie games like this either have a terrible retelling of the movie or they just barely have a story at all. This game was different. It actually had a somewhat cohesive plot, with Lightning McQueen's training in the first 2 chapters and Chick Hicks's revenge for the last 2 chapters. And keep in mind, this game was developed while the movie was still in production, so it's honestly crazy how good they managed to capture everything. I bet now you're thinking, wow, this game is an absolute masterpiece. Well, no. It's not. It's really not.
The story does have a lot of little problems that add up. After all, this is just a cutscene compilation. You can look this shit up on YouTube and watch it. My main gripe is Chapter 3 being filler. Like I said before, I like Chapter 3 for what it is. It has cute moments with Mater, the Queen's Gang is super funny, and the Queen's Gang is super funny.
You know, I spend a lot of time in my hood, and you hit it. He hits my hood. Watch the hood, okay?
But other than the Piston Cup race, it doesn't involve Chick in any way. Yeah, the Queen's Gang does work for Chick Hicks, but that's not revealed until later. One idea I've always had to fix Chapter 3 is that after McQueen beats them, there could be a cutscene where the Queen's Gang gets mad. Then we can pan out to see Chick spying on them from behind the sign or on top of this rock in the distance. Chapter 3 wouldn't be completely filler, and it could foreshadow the Queen's Gang working for Chick. And you know, they could do the same thing for Chapter 2 in Sarge's boot camp. We could like find Chick in the background spying on them or something. The idea of Chick always being in the background could really add to the idea that Chick is a lot more cunning than he looks, which I think would really help the story. Alright, my next major gripe with the story is, of course, the ending. Now, as I've already said, the ending is complete. The complete absence of Chick in the ending is so bizarre, it's almost jarring. How to fix this is easy. You know, after this bit where Lightning gets the Piston Cup, we can go back to Pit Row like we do in Smasherville, and Chick could crash out. Then Lightning could give advice like he does in another Cars game, or he could gloat and say something funny like he does in Smasherville. This is something like so obvious to add. Like, the kids could laugh at Chick because he's dumb and celebrate that we defeated him. And yeah, I already talked about how cheesy the actual ending is.
Wherever the road takes us,
I guess.
it's a pretty big country.
My next gripe is that not all the characters from the movie are really featured in this game. That doesn't have anything to do with the story, but one of the main features pushed with this game is being able to hang out with all the Cars characters and explore Radiator Springs in its entirety. For example, Flo and Ramon only appear really as computer players, Lizzie is only in a minigame, and Red is completely absent in every single Cars game. There's not even any side content for these guys. Like, they couldn't have added 1 or 2 more side races for these guys? Nah, Red was done so dirty, man. Okay, time for positives. First off, Chapter 1 and 2 where McQueen is training, I really like how they do it. Chapter 1 for the most part is a tutorial chapter. In my opinion, what makes a tutorial good is being quick while easy to understand. This game's actual tutorial level, Doc's Lesson Power Slide, does this perfectly. The race goes on for about a minute and you get to do the turn right to go left thing, which is super cool. Yeah, this game is pretty simple and there's no need for long tutorials, but there's games out there with simple controls and they have like 10-15 minute tutorials. Then Chapter 2, it really throws you in there with Sarge's boot camp. You have to navigate these tight turns and rough terrain using the new power slide technique you just learned. And you get some funny moments on the side with Sarge. It's great. Alright, for the climax in Chapter 4, I'll say it once and I'll say it again. I love how they did Chick here. In the movie, Chick is portrayed as being dumb and egotistical. Basically the opposite of what Lightning becomes in the movie. It was kind of a bold move making him a snake, but it works so well here. Also, I like how it involved the delinquent road hazards too, who only had that one scene in the movie. One last thing I want to talk about is, of course, our boy, Lightning McQueen. More specifically, how he's grown since the movie. One example is in Sally's Sunshine Circuit, when those twins, Me and Tia, ask him out on a date. Instead of doing whatever the hell he does, he politely rejects them, which is very nice.
We were hoping, like, Lightning would take a drive with us.
Actually, ladies, I don't think that's such a good idea.
Another example in Lightning Strikes Back, when Lightning finds out that the delinquent road hazards robbed Mac, the first thing he asks about is Mac's well-being. He doesn't even seem to realize that his stuff is gone until a little bit later.
Oh, bad news, son. He just radioed. He was driving west along the interstate and somehow a gang of punk kids stole all of your gear from his trailer.
Is he okay?
Sounded a bit shaken up. Probably feels bad about it more than anything.
Oh, good. I'm glad he's all right. Oh, no. I need that stuff for my next race.
He goes out there not just to get his stuff back, but to avenge Mac. Another example, before every Piston Cup race, Mac and Lightning have a little chat before they hit the road.
This is it, Mac.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the matter?
You know, end of the season and all. I'm just gonna miss this, that's all.
Come on, Mac. You know that a champion has to go back the following season to defend his trophy, right? You and I got plenty more road to travel, partner.
In the movie, Lightning always treated Mac like shit, you know, telling him to shut up and stay awake and do all these crazy things. But here, he sees him as a genuine friend and not just his coworker, which is nice.
So yeah, the story is really not that bad. It's not a masterpiece, you know, it's definitely not as good as the movie. But for what it is, a tie-in movie game, it's really not that bad. With some polish, it could very easily be like a Cars 1.5 or maybe even a better Cars 2. So yeah, story, good. Why isn't this a movie? Alright, now we're going to talk about the actual game itself. What we talked about just now was the storyline, the cutscene compilation. And since this game isn't a visual novel, nor am I making a video on just the storyline, we also have to talk about the actual game. Like with part 1, part 2 will be split into parts, and each part will go into detail about different aspects of the game. So buckle up again, guys. So as I've said before, one of the main features pushed with this game is being able to explore Radiator Springs and hang out with the Cars characters. If you watch any of the Cars trailers, that's the main thing they're going to push to you. In fact, even in that interview with the developers, they called Cars a racing adventure game, which really shows that they wanted the exploration mode to be a key part of this game. This is why we're talking about the exploration mode first, because everything else this game has kind of builds on top of it. The racing, the minigames, the side content, they all kind of build off of it. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into it. So as you might have already guessed, the map is split into 3 sections: Radiator Springs, Ornament Valley, and Tailfin Pass, all of which are separated by a loading screen. So what we're going to be looking at is what these maps have to offer and how fun is it to explore. And what better place to start than in Radiator Springs? Radiator Springs is actually pretty interesting. But first we gotta talk about the actual town, and they actually captured the town really well here. Every little minute detail in this town from the movie is in this game. The sale today only signs on Lizzie's shop, all the random hole-in-the-wall shops, even that random house next to Ramon's shop is in here. Like, dude, that is insane. And oh my god, wait until you see the town at night. Everything here is just absolutely perfect. The lights, the music, even the sky with the stars, dude, it is just magical. I could honestly just sit here and look at this for hours. This is like a whole nother level of attention to detail. Like, they didn't have to do this at all, but they did, and it looks insane. The only thing that could make this better is if you put the Shaboom song in here. But even without that, this is perfect. You're looking at perfection right now. They even include the residents driving around. Oh my god, bro. I'm having such a Cars boner right now. Also, side note, this is the only Cars game that shows Radiator Springs at night, and the devs absolutely cooked. Alright, now that I've escaped the trance that this beautiful town put on me, let's keep going. What's interesting about Radiator Springs is that it's not just a town that's in here, there's also a bunch of other stuff that they added. For example, to the left of Radiator Springs, they added this forest. Like a whole ass forest with grass and trees and everything, in the middle of the desert. It is super cool, but my only gripe is that it's not very big. But then again, a giant forest might be a bit too much for kids. There's also this canyon with giant rocks that you can get on top of using a secret pathway that's in the corner of the map. The canyon, however, is pretty linear and it just takes you back into town. There's also a road that goes behind the giant radiator behind the courthouse, but it's just a single road and it's not very interesting. So yeah, Radiator Springs does have a lot of stuff, but it's more quantity over quality. The coolest part ends up just being the town. But that's a lot more than I can say for Ornament Valley. Ornament Valley is pretty much lifeless, there's not a lot happening here. The most interesting here ends up being Rust Bucket Stadium, which is part of the story. I think the idea with Ornament Valley, however, was it's supposed to be like a lifeless desert that lies outside of town. But that's not cool or fun or interesting at all. But on the bright side, it does, being a lifeless desert, really well. Sometimes you can see dust clouds form, and in the background, you can hear those birds that go. Lastly, Tailfin Pass, and unlike Ornament Valley, this place is peak. Tailfin Pass is, well, a mountain pass with windy roads and huge mountains surrounding you. It also has some really cool stuff to see. Along with the Wheelwell Motel, there's also an abandoned mine shaft and not one, but 2 waterfalls. There's also hidden secrets everywhere in Tailfin Pass. For example, you can go behind the waterfall from the movie. There's also a little pathway on top of the mine too. I think the intention with Tailfin Pass was that it's supposed to be more of a scenic location. When looking at the other 2, it's clearly the odd one out. It's not as wide and expansive, being more linear,
Also, it's always dusk, it's never just daytime or nighttime. There's also unique music in Tailfin Pass. Usually in Radiator Springs and Ornament Valley, the same tracks are played over and over again, but in Tailfin Pass, it's different. But it being scenic is totally not a bad thing. Tailfin Pass is a very beautiful place. But there's one big problem with the exploration. Ornament Valley, and especially Tailfin Pass, are severely underused within the game's story. Most of the story, or at least most of the event markers, are in Radiator Springs. Like, it gets to the point where Ornament Valley and Tailfin Pass feel more like glorified detours. There are only 4 races in Tailfin Pass, one of which is completely optional. It's even worse in Ornament Valley, where there's only 3 races and nothing optional. Also, yeah, there's no minigames here, except the ending of one of them takes place in Ornament Valley. But yeah, being able to explore this wide and expansive world, especially when created by Pixar, is really cool nonetheless, even if they took some creative liberties. Of course, Cars the video game is a racing game. After all, it wouldn't be Cars without racing. And this game's racing is kinda interesting in more ways than one. It controls like most racing games, you got your button for gas, brake, you use the analog stick to turn, What makes this game truly different is its unique mechanics.
You might remember me talking about power sliding from part 1. Basically, it's the turn right to go left thing. It's like drifting in other racing games. You hold down the button and you'll turn a bit more sharply in that direction. But it's not like doing a mini turbo in Mario Kart. Instead of actually drifting, you'll artificially slide in that direction.
But here's the thing, the game really wants you to use this. In fact, regular steering is like 10 times worse. You have to power slide on almost every turn in the game. Which I suppose isn't a bad thing. After all, you get to do the turn right to go left thing. That's cool as shit.
In fact, it was actually discovered that you get a small speed boost when you complete a power slide.
I think the purpose for this was to make up any lost speed you get from doing this weird sliding thing. But you see, it's kind of bugged. There's no limit to how long the power slide has to be to get the speed boost, which means you can infinitely chain these and gain infinite speed. Yeah. It's kind of like snaking from Mario Kart DS. By chaining little power slides on straightaways, you can easily get to top speed in like 4 or 5 seconds. And the top speed for all characters is 180 miles an hour, so by continuing to do this at top speed, you can actually hold it there.
But it works differently with each character, and it works the best with Lightning, so he's the best character in the game.
There's also tilting, which is just as weird as power sliding.
By holding down the button, you'll hop on 2 wheels and sharply turn in the direction you tilted in. The only drawback is you'll lose a lot of speed if you do this. I think the idea with tilting was that it's supposed to be like a risk-reward thing, but you never really need to do this because power sliding is just so broken. Also, tilting itself is broken too.
You see, instead of doing one large tilt and losing all your speed, you can do short little bursts of tilting. You won't lose as much speed and you'll take the turn just as sharply. Yeah, this completely eliminates the risk part of the risk-reward. Also, when you complete Chapter 1, you'll unlock a little boost meter, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You unlock more of it as you play through the story, so that's nice. So yeah, the mechanics are pretty broken, but I'm sure the tracks make up for that, right? Right? Actually, no, not right. You want to know why I talked about the exploration mode first? That's because all the tracks take place on this map. And that's a problem because this map isn't very big. Well, it's at least not big enough to have 30 different racetracks on it. What that means is you're going to see the same jumps and turns and shortcuts in different courses. Now that I think about it, that's probably why there's only 2 courses in Tailfin Pass and Ornament Valley. Because of how small these maps are, there's not a lot of room for originality. You know what? It's probably not that big a deal. If freaking Mario Kart Tour can do it, then I guess this game can do it too. But there is one huge, monstrous problem that not just affects the racing, but the entire game as a whole. This game is way too easy. Yes, this game is piss-ass easy. The AI move in slow motion and take turns even slower. I know what you're thinking. Dude, why are you complaining about difficulty in a game targeted for kids? And you're right, any normal person wouldn't complain about difficulty in a game like this. But you see, they made an attempt at fixing it. If you make a new profile and name it CHMPION, or champion without the A, then you'll unlock, well, champion mode for that save file. The game normally has 2 difficulties, rookie and pro, or easy and hard. Champion mode is supposed to be like an expert or impossible mode. But even champion mode is too easy. Don't get me wrong, it is definitely harder. The AI are smarter and faster, but it's still too easy.
What we have currently for champion mode should be the regular easy mode, honestly. And the actual champion mode should be something much harder than this. They even stated themselves that champion mode is supposed to be a more competitive difficulty, but they just absolutely fail at doing that. And that could honestly be somewhat of a deal breaker. If the game is piss easy even for kids, then it's not fun and you're not going to want to play it. The overpowered driving mechanics don't make this problem any better. In fact, it does the exact opposite, especially since the game almost forces you to use them. What's even crazier, all of this wouldn't even matter if they just made the secret hard mode actually hard. But luckily, all of those problems really only exist in the road races. We haven't even talked about the Piston Cup races yet. What we talked about just now with the overpowered driving mechanics and the really boring courses are road races. There's also the Piston Cup races, which are actually not that bad. What makes the Piston Cup races differ from the road races is the added rules they have. One, there's no speed cap. Normally in road races, the top speed for all characters is 180 miles an hour. But for Piston Cup races, you can go way past that. Two, power sliding and the boost meter are disabled, so you can't rely on overpowered driving mechanics anymore. Three, you notice this little meter on the bottom right here. This is your tire durability. As you race and take turns, it'll go down. When it gets to yellow, you'll have to take a pit stop. If it runs out, you'll permanently lose speed and you'll lose. And what's cool about the pit stop is you get to play as Guido. For about 15 seconds, but still. Lastly, the AI actually rubber bands you here. Well, either that or I suck. But either way, the AI are much faster than they are in the road races. If you don't know what rubber banding is, basically, in racing games, if you get really far ahead of the AI, they gain ungodly amounts of speed to catch up to you. Developers often use this technique to keep the game interesting, even for the more skilled players. Right, so now that that's out of the way, there are 5 of these races in total, one for each chapter of the story, and each of them play and look a little bit differently. For example, not all of them are basic ovals. Palm Mile Speedway is the only one that's a basic oval. In fact, there is an interesting or unique thing about every single Piston Cup course. Palm Mile Speedway, only track that's a basic oval. Motor Speedway of the South, 4 turns instead of 2. Sun Valley takes place in the desert. Smasherville, the roads are sloped. Los Angeles takes place at sunset, and in some versions of the game, the sun glares on the screen. What's also unique about the Piston Cup races is that before the race starts, there's a little cutscene where it pans around the track and all the racers, kind of checking them all out. It's got everything, screaming fans, super loud engines, there's even some close-ups of some of the background racers, which is a really cool detail. They even got Daryl Carter doing commentary throughout the actual race. He'll say something if, you pass somebody or you hold the lead,
Number 52 is falling back. Looks like he's exhausted. Shut your fucking...
Yeah, they did an amazing job making you feel like you're in an actual stadium. And even the race itself isn't actually that bad. If only they put as much effort into the road races. So Cars' video game has a bunch of mini-games, and what's cool about them is they all star the side characters. You unlock each of these mini-games by playing through the story, usually like 1 or 2 per chapter. All of them are completely optional and don't add anything to the main game or the storyline. Okay, so how this is going to work is I'm going to talk about each minigame, and then after each one, put it on a tier list. The reason why there's no D or F is because none of these games are particularly terrible, or at least not to the point where they'd be considered unplayable and garbage. Also because I really love this game. Okay, so since I already talked about High Speed Heist and Lightning Strikes Back, there's no need to repeat myself. Next, the Pit Stop Challenge is technically a mini game, but we already talked about it and there's not much to it. Let's just put it in B tier just for giggles. Lastly, the game considers Doc's Lesson Power Slide and the 3 Sarge levels to be mini games, but let's be honest, these aren't mini games at all. The first one is a tutorial level, and the Sarge levels are not even mini games, they're more like little mini challenges. Okay, so the first minigame we're going to talk about, if you couldn't tell by the music already, is tractor tipping, which you unlock in the middle of chapter 1. Of course they included tractor tipping, it's like the running gag of the whole Cars series. And also, of course, it stars our boy Mater. Well, there's an option to play as Lightning, but it defaults to Mater, so screw you. Okay, so how this works is there's going to be tractors placed around the map, and you have to find all of them within the time limit and while staying out of Frank's way. If Frank catches you, then you'll die. and you have to start over. This game has unique controls. Instead of using a classic gas and brake button, you instead just move the analog stick in whichever way you want Mater to move. Honestly, tractor tipping being a stealth game makes perfect sense. And in later levels, the game adds more elements and obstacles, turning it into more of a puzzle game. For example, in level 2 and onward, we get introduced to these searchlights, and if you stay in them for too long, this anger meter rises. And if it reaches the top, you die in real life. In level 3, we see these wheelbarrows, and you have to push them into the gap in order to cross. What's weird is that sometimes tractors are in these gaps, and if you push the wheelbarrow in, it'll block them. So you have to go around, get the tractor, and then push the wheelbarrow over. Lastly, we have these gates that Mater can only push open from one side. They only appear in the last level though. So there you go, that's tractor tipping. A very solid experience, except oh my god, do not play this on the Wii. Remember when I said you control Mater using the analog stick? Well, of course the Wii remote doesn't have an analog stick, so instead you control Mater using the motion controls, and it's just as bad as it sounds. This game has 3D movement, so you have to move the remote towards and away from you. It's so weird and uncomfortable. You know what, for that reason alone, I'm putting it in A tier. Next up, Luigi to the Rescue, unlocked in Chapter 2. This minigame actually has a little bit of story in it. Lightning comes to Luigi saying that there's random tires scattered around town. And Luigi, filled with passion, vows to rescue those tires. The actual game is pretty simple. Playing as Luigi, you have to go around Radiator Springs and find all the tires, and then bring them back to the tire shop within the time limit. The tires are more scattered and further away in the later levels, but you can use the minimap to find them. It's not too hard. And yep, that's the entire minigame. Simple but sweet. I do like the exploration aspect of this game. You know, it's a good way to make players explore. The only issue is this game is way too easy, and it gets repetitive quickly. There's no obstacles or traps that slow you down, so you can very easily complete every level in like less than a minute or two. So honestly, C tier, this game could have been so much better. Next up is Sheriff's Hot Pursuit, and this game is absolutely badass. Playing as Sheriff, you go around the map hunting down speeders and criminals. Once you find one, the siren turns on and you have to stay close to them, otherwise they'll get away. So basically cops and robbers. You mainly chase down side characters. It starts with like Fletcher and Gerald and Mia and Tia, and then it goes down to the Queen's gang, the delinquent road hazards, even Chick himself. It can actually get pretty challenging sometimes too. The AI move really fast and they can fake you out sometimes. Also, the last level takes place in Ornament Valley, which means Ornament Valley gets some more usage, which is good. Also, all the levels can be played at daytime or at nighttime, which is really cool. There's even a multiplayer version of this game. One person plays as Sheriff, the other plays as Lightning, and Sheriff chases Lightning down the high-speed heist freeway. Easy S tier, man. This game is really fun. Lastly, Lizzie's Postcard Hunt. Wait, is this even a mini-game? This is more like a side quest. Whatever. So like Luigi to the Rescue, this game has a little bit of story in it. Lizzie is showing Lightning all of her old postcards from all over Route 66. But due to a freak accident, they all fly away and end up scattering all over town. So Lightning promises Lizzie that he'll find them all. So how this works is there's 20 postcards scattered around the 3 different maps. 12 in Radiator Springs, 6 in Tailfin Pass, and 2 in Ornament Valley. Some are easy to find, like there's literally one right outside the shop, and others are really fucking hard to find. There's one that's behind the waterfall from Tailfin Pass. There's one on top of Ramon's shop, and another all the way out here. This is the one where they really want you to explore the whole map from top to bottom, and this is really cool. And yeah, some of these are really well hidden, and you really have to explore. This may be a side quest, but it is a damn good side quest, so easy S tier. Welp, there you have it. That's all the minigames. Honestly, some really cool stuff. It's really cool that they... Oh. Hello? Yes? Wait, I missed one? Which one? I'm sorry, Mater's what? So, looks like I missed one. Mater's Countdown Cleanup. Wait, what the hell is this? So by typing this into the cheat codes, you'll unlock Mater's Countdown Cleanup, along with Mater's Speedy Circuit, which is a bonus racetrack. Yeah, I forgot to mention, there's in-game cheat codes you can use. Most of them just unlock all the bonus content, but there's one that gives you an infinite boost meter, one that gives you infinite acceleration, you know, all fun stuff. So how this works is, you play as Mater, or Lightning, and you go around town collecting junk. There is a timer, but each piece of junk you collect adds to the timer, some of them more than others. By the way, when I said around town, I meant only the town. You can't go anywhere past these buildings. If you try to go past, you'll hit this big red barrier. The goal is to collect 100 pieces of junk. But here's the thing, the game doesn't end when you get to 100. So if you have the skill, you could literally just go on forever, since every piece of junk you collect adds to the timer and the junk infinitely respawns. Yeah, this is ass. This is really bad. I think the point of this minigame is just to give us a sneak peek into what else they had planned, but they should have polished it, or at the very least made it end when you hit 100. But yeah, who thought this was a good idea? You're confined to this tiny box and running around in circles. That's literally the whole game. But I like the idea of this minigame. Mater's job is towing and salvage, but we never see him do the salvage part of it. This game has so much missed potential, honestly. They could have, well, first off, not confine the game to a tiny box and add more levels. One idea I've had to fix this game is maybe after you collect all the junk, you'd have to run back to Mater's junkyard. So that way you'd have to keep track of where you are and not get lost. Then in the later levels, you could go up to like Tailfin Pass, and then have to run all the way back down with a time limit or something. Another idea I've had is maybe to penalize you for hitting walls or cars, like by losing junk or losing time, you know. Yeah man, so much missed potential. C tier. Alright, so now you have it. There's all the mini games. Really cool stuff. I like how they include all the side characters. The only real issue is that there's not a lot of these mini games. If they're not locked behind cheat codes or not really mini games, then there's only 5 of these. And according to this game's cutting room floor page, the game makes reference to a bunch of unused mini games. There's unused voice lines that suggest it would have been a towing minigame where Mater tows people around. That would have been interesting to see. There's unused code for a game called Pave and Crazy that would have involved Bessie. That would have been cool. You gotta remember, this game is at its core a budgety tie-in game, so there's gonna be a lot of things we miss out on. Hashtag delete countdown cleanup. This is ass. So I guess I should start by defining bonus content. Basically anything that's not part of the story mode or the exploration mode. I suppose the first thing I should talk about is the arcade mode. The arcade mode is basically versus mode for Mario Kart. You can select any race or mini game, you can set your own rules, play as any character, you know. You can even select an individual level from any of the mini games, which is a nice quality of life feature. So yeah, the arcade mode is all well and dandy, until you look at the character roster. Of course you got all the necessary characters like Lightning, Mater, Sally, Chick, but what's bad is what's not here. They didn't include any of the side characters from the story. Some of them I'm not too angry about, like they didn't include Fletcher and Gerald or Mia and Tia. Yeah, I'm not too angry about those. The Queen's gang aren't playable characters, which I think sucks. I mean, they were main characters in Chapter 4. But what really grinds my gears and trips my trigger is what they did with the delinquent road hazards. Only Wingo is playable in the arcade mode. Only Wingo. Even though you can play as the other two in the high-speed heist mission. All they had to do was put them in the character roster, but they didn't. It's not like any data for them was missing. They have all the necessary voice lines, all the necessary programming. All they had to do was just put them in the character roster. Also, by the way, Sarge and Fillmore aren't playable too. And other than Lizzie and Red, they're the only characters from Radiator Springs that aren't playable. But it's not all bad. They also included the King and Daryl Cartrip as playable characters, but with a catch. For no reason whatsoever, they decided to only make these guys playable in the Piston Cup races. Dude, this is like Mario Kart DS Shy Guy all over again. Okay, next. This game has a bunch of optional races too. Most of them are just simple races, but there's one here that's interesting. Monster Truck Mayhem in Chapter 4. So the story here is that 3 monster trucks, Count Spatula, the Crippler, and Ginormous, challenge Lightning to a race. But Lightning isn't a monster truck, so he can't race these guys. So he goes to Luigi, who just so happens to have monster truck tires lying around in his store, and gets suited up. So in this race, you play as Monster McQueen, and the monster trucks control a little bit differently than normal. The monster trucks are obviously slower, they can't tilt, and they have a very weak power slide. So yeah, very nice little optional change of pace. The other interesting track is Mater's Speedy Circuit, which is unlocked with the same cheat code as Mater's Countdown Cleanup. This track is actually somewhat challenging. There's really tight turns and narrow roads. Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. It's also really short, which means it's the only road race with more than 3 laps. Okay, that's all for the arcade mode. What I really wanted to talk about was all the collectibles. By collecting in-game points by playing the game, or using cheat codes, you can unlock a bunch of collectibles. For example, you can unlock concept art for this game and some of the characters. There's also clips from the movie, which is really cool. You can buy skins for every character in the game using points, which is nice. But what I really wanted to show you was the deleted scenes. Remember when I was talking about unused minigames before? Well, here we get access to the cutscenes for these unused minigames, and they're all hilarious.
I had a dream about Bessie just last night, in fact.
Ooh, was it a good one?
What are you talking about? When I took off those two birds in that tree, I heard them. One said, "Look, it's a flying car."
I'm pretty good at it now. I ain't yanked anybody's bumper off in a long time. Hey, do you want to go practice with me?
Dude, I love that they included these. Not just the deleted scenes, but also the concept art. It's a nice little sneak peek into the development of this game. And yeah, the extra cosmetics and sneak peeks are always nice to have. And yep, that's it. It's a pretty short segment. Alright, that's the entire game in a 15.5-minute nutshell. This game is honestly spectacular. It's not just a good movie game, it's also a good racing game. The story, although being pretty simple, is really charming. It has a lot of heartfelt and funny moments sprinkled in. The maps are really fun to explore and mess around in. I always find myself coming back to them. The racing, I'll admit, is kinda mid, but the broken mechanics are fun to play around with, and the Piston Cup races more than make up for everything wrong with the road races. All the mini-games, even the ones I ranked lower, are really fun and are great ways to expand on the side characters. All the collectibles are really cool and are great sneak peeks into this game's development, especially those deleted scenes. There is truly nothing like this game. This game, along with the movie, is a timeless classic. You know what this game really needs is like some kind of remake or a remaster on modern consoles. The remaster could fix a lot of the problems with this game, like they could make it harder, they could fix up countdown cleanup, they could add a bunch of the stuff that's on the cutting room floor page that we missed out on. And in June of 2026, Cars will have turned 20 years old. That would be the perfect time to drop something like this. But unfortunately, that's probably never going to happen. Disney Interactive, one of the companies that made this game, went out of business, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. But as I kept stating throughout this video, the devs were aware of the stereotype that movie games get, and they really wanted to try their best with this game. So I suppose the moral of the story is, even if the odds are against you, even if the circumstances aren't optimal, doesn't mean you don't try your best and put forth the effort. There's never a bad reason not to try your best, and just because you're gonna lose doesn't mean you don't try to win.
Birds can't talk.
Well, I know that, but if they could, they would say, "Look, I can fly."
Try your fucking need to be agile, fit, athletic, and adaptable.
You've been reading my press, haven't you, Sarge?
No.
Although you left out sleek, charming, and dashing.
Try your fucking best! Get over here! I will flatten you like a pancake!
You can't hide from us!
Oh, what are you gonna slice and dice with your spoil?
I just figured you might want to get acquainted with the view. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be spending a lot of time behind me. In the race. We're going to be in the race, and I'll be ahead of you and moving behind me. In the race! Is it me? What are we not getting here?
You are so driven, chick. I love that about you.
Well, congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. And I gotta say, honestly, I mean this, thank you so much for watching to the end. The Cars franchise, especially this game and movie, played a key part in my childhood, and it was really fun going back and looking at it with fresh eyes. And it doesn't have to end here. There's actually a whole series of these Cars video games. In fact, Cars 1 alone got 2 other video games and a bunch of different handheld versions. And I would love to talk about them, but only if this video does well. And speaking of doing well, if you have any thoughts on this game, or disagree with anything I said, please drop a comment. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this game. And that's all I have for you. Again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching to the end. Have a good rest of your day/night.